Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Clear Lake Center for our Sunday service for June 6th, believe it or not, of 2021. The last time I spoke, I shared from the Joel Goldsmith book, The Contemplative Life, and shared his teaching on the daily preparation for spiritual living. And during that talk, I shared thoughts that Joel gave us to make a full connection with Source, the One. Then I asked you, but what if you are having trouble making that connection, even if only once in a while? I stated that something to remember is we do not have to do this alone. The Master Jesus said this: I can of my own self do nothing. So if I of my own self can do nothing, there must be something that is here assisting me that can help me out. There must be something working in my personal experience that is here to assist me in my personal spiritual growth, to owning and having a life filled with the fullness of spirit within it. And that something is the presence and power of Source, of Spirit, of the Christ that resides within us. You know, each Sunday when we are at the center, we make three statements. And the first of which is, there is only one presence and one power active in the world and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. And this means that the only power in the universe is for good. And when we begin to more fully take in and understand that each and every one of us is the fulfillment of the presence and power of God, then we begin to understand that the presence and power of God on earth is an energy form coming from Source through us. Joel knew without a doubt that he was God's source in action, that he was all that God is. In unity, we make the statement, all that God is, I am. When Jesus made the statement, I and my Father are one, he wasn't just talking about himself. He was talking about each and every one of us. In the Way of Mastery, lesson 33, Jesus, speaking through the author, tells us the same thing. He tells us that there is only one God and that you are that. In this chapter, Jesus makes a statement. For where you are, I am. And where I am, you are. We abide then as the one mind. And it's from the very heart of God. So the statement goes on to state that the simple truth is that there is only one, that there is only heaven, that there is only love, and that there is only the perfect peace that passes all understanding. He states that there is only one thing, and you are that one. Your brother and sister are that one. Every living thing on this planet is the one. So that means that every human, every animal, every plant is the one. The Way of Mastery is an absolutely incredible book. And I am jumping to the very last part of this book, which is called The Way of Knowing. Throughout the book, Jesus has been bringing us along to the point where we can understand what I'm saying here today. But since I've been saying this virtually the same thing over and over the past many years, and most of you have been with me during that time. Nothing I'm saying today or the next time I speak is actually anything new for you. The difference is I'm sharing it the way that Jesus speaks in this book. And the way he says so many different things can have a very great impact on all of us. In this chapter, he tells us that he can only be where we are, and that we can only be where he is, because we are one. And as I stated earlier, Jesus said, the Father and I are one. So he was not talking about just him and the Father, but you and I and the Father are one. And since Jesus is one with the Father and we are one with the Father, that means we are one with Jesus, or as we many times say, the Christ within. And the thing is, we're not only one with God, with Jesus, but with every other master that has walked the face of this earth, and even those that haven't come down to this earth. Once we can truly begin to understand that, then we can begin to see that the life we're living is actually perfect. And that perfection has nothing to do with how we're living, how our body is, or anything else going on around us. When we truly understand that God and I are one, and we realize that the energy force that is God, that is within us, is what's been creating our life, that's where a much higher and deeper awareness of the Christ within us, as us, comes into play. When I spoke here the last time, I said it was as if we've been given this energy force to use in whatever way we want to use it. And I said that God's given us free will, and that free will means God is not going to step in and say, that might not be a wise decision, or maybe you should think about that twice. No. Source energy just gives us source energy to use as we direct. And the challenge, of course, is we weren't given that instruction book when we were born, nor were our parents taught that so as to teach us. Which is also why I stated last time how incredibly important it is to constantly keep our minds on God itself, constantly, no matter what we're doing. In this chapter, Jesus states, the life you have been living is the life of awareness, of consciousness, of perfect freedom to create whatever perception you choose to hold. But once again, we weren't taught that. So we go about our business getting upset with this, getting angry with that person, getting hurt, all those things, not understanding that everything we're thinking about feeds that particular state of consciousness. So the question once again becomes, what is your life like in its awareness of your being the Christ? What is your state of consciousness about the world you live in? So if our state of consciousness comes from whatever we're thinking about the majority of the time, the question then is, are you thinking about your challenges? Are you thinking about the problems of the world? Are you thinking about the challenges your kids have or something like that? Or are you thinking about the Christ of God within you is the same Christ of God within them, and they are being directed as they listen to their highest and best good? that each of our family members, our friends, actually everyone in the world has a direct line to God, and they are always using that direct line, whether they know it or not. So, do we put our consciousness on source energy, the Christ within, and listen to what we're being told? See, we are free in every moment of our life to finally come to the understanding that everything we see about us is actually coming from the energy of source within each of us. That every person in the world, no matter who they are or what they're doing, is actually using source energy to create the world that they are in. So as we begin to truly understand that about the world, then we can begin to see that in actuality, that there are no problems, that the separation we feel from others or even within ourselves is actually a construct of our minds and has no truth in reality. When we can grow to such a degree spiritually and get to this level of understanding, then we can realize that fear has no power over us. Death has no power over us. That in truth, we abide in the only place that has truth in it, and that is in the space of source love. What Jesus in this chapter says, the truly enlightened mind actually just allows all things to just be, doesn't try to change anything, doesn't try to do anything. And he states that an enlightened mind, whether it experiences sadness, joy, anger, guilt, hurt, ecstasy, lovemaking, a piece of fruit, or even cold wind on the skin temporarily in the body mind, merely allows all of these things without resistance to be exactly what they are, while the mind perceives and knows them to be harmless, vast, eternal, and radiating the light that God is. See, Jesus reiterates over and over again that there is only one reality. That reality is what Jesus has called God, and says that one is one with me, and I am that one. And that one is one with you, and you are that one. And that one is with a capital O. That one meaning God, source. In a way, that may actually seem like a very radical idea, but the truth is that all that arises and passes away is God. There's only God. There can only be God. And you are that one. What we're really being asked to do is to allow the illusion of duality, of separation, to finally dissolve and give way to the absolute truth. Jesus states that everything that arises and passes away is perfectly okay, that all opportunities to experience the awareness of love, love's presence for us is okay. Every opportunity that you experience, like the contraction of fear, is okay. He says these things arise only in the field of the perfectly free mind of God that you are. So it's not about cutting out certain experiences and having only certain other ones, but rather it's to understand that all experiences are transitory. A moment of ecstasy or a moment of sadness is actually one and the same for the enlightened mind. That there is only that vast expanse that allows all things to come and go. He also states that when nothing is any longer unacceptable to you in the field of what seems to be your own unique particular experience, you will then know that you are home. Things arise and pass away, and yet you remain because you are that one. You are God, and only God exists. God exists as you and coming through you with its source energy. He states that all these teachings that we read about or listen to are for one simple reason: to reduce fear so that a particular mind can release its grip on itself and surrender the illusion of separation. When that happens, you can be bathed in the light of reality once again and see that God is what I am. I am God. You are God. Only that one exists. Only the I that we share as the one exists. And he goes on to state, I appear as every blade of grass. I appear as every thought. I appear as every desire. I appear as every cloud in the sky. I appear as you. You are that one that I am. I am speaking to you, and yet you are speaking to you. You hear me, but you actually hear only yourself, capital S, self. I'd like to finish this section of this chapter with the statement. This is simply the truth. For when the mind looks and beholds, there is only God, and I am that one. The false self has died. Where did it go? Nowhere, because it never existed in the first place. So I'd like us to do a meditation right now. And we're going to do the same meditation that we did the last time that I spoke, because I feel it is so important to assist us in raising our state of consciousness to being one with Source, as Source. And as we raise our state of consciousness, we then become more and more aware of what our thoughts are, what our feelings are. Can we just step back and allow things to happen? Can we just be centered in the one and not take a resistance to things that we may not like, or things that are said to us that we may not like, or treating us the way we don't like? Can we just begin to step back from it and say to ourselves, they're just using Christ energy to create a world for themselves. I now change the energy that I'm putting out to be the energy of love and light. So I invite you to just sit back and relax. Put your feet flat on the floor and close your eyes. Now take a deep breath in. And as you let it out, just allow your body to fully relax. You can say this to yourself. God and I are one. God and I are one. God, Source, is in me as me. God, the source of all, brings all good in life. God does not bring health. God is health itself. God does not bring life. God is life itself. God does not bring abundance. God is abundance itself. God and I are one. God, source, is in me as me. Therefore, I also am health itself. I also am life itself. I also am abundance itself. The more I affirm this, the more I take this in. The more I know this in every cell of my body, the more my connection to true source is made. The more my expression of this comes out into the world. And the more I affirm this, and the more I know this in every cell of my body, the more my life radiates the presence and the power of the one source God to the world. And so it is. Amen. And when you're ready, you can just take a deep breath and open your eyes and come back to this time and this place. I want to thank you for joining with us this morning. And hopefully this message can encourage you to once again step into the field of energy that you already are, knowing you are utilizing the energy of God's source to create the world you live in. When we look around ourselves and we see a world that we don't like, go within yourself. Acknowledge the presence and power of God in you, bringing you only good. And as you affirm only good for your life, then the presence and power of God brings you only good. So thank you once again for joining us. Namaste, everyone. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ in you. God bless.